Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today I'm really honored that the folks at Skyward Simulations are with me on the channel over here to showcase their Cessna Citation Sovereign Plus for the very first time. So say hello to Lucas and John.
Hello guys.
Hey, how's it going?
So, Lucas and John are the guys behind this fantastic little airplane that we see over here. And while I'm saying fantastic little airplane, this isn't all that small. In fact, the Citation Sovereign has quite the incredible range of more than 3,000 miles, while at the same time just needing about 3,000 feet for the takeoff. And that's why we're over here in Saint-Tropez, flying this one over to Lugano on just 1,000 meter runway for an airplane that's gonna take you across continents. Now this is a fantastic new addition to our simulator with a lot of features, so I think we're just about gonna get started, and we'll start with a walk around. Now, just prior to the start of this recording, Lucas and John have shown me around a little bit, so guys, tell me, what are we going to look at despite the standards that you have, like individual covers for the probes, not everything just covered by the same probe, but everything individually. Then, of course, we are always looking at the landing gear and stuff like that, which looks fantastic on your aircraft as well. But there's stuff that we do not regularly see on other aircraft. So, what are we going to have a look at today?
Yes, so you've already mentioned the covers that are rather standard. Well, you can toggle them individually, as that's a feature I quite enjoy on the Hot Start Challenger, for instance. And for the people who would usually not do that or don't like it, you can always change it in the EFP to just join the click spots, and the same goes for the openings on the outside. We have a huge amount of openings, almost all of them you would see on the real plane. So for instance, we're looking at the avionics bay right now, or yeah, that for instance. And again, you can click every latch individually and open the cover. So you click in the middle, you open the orange thing, and then you click at the bottom in the middle exactly, and there you see your avionics, and the fans, for instance, are gonna spin once you put power on them. Yeah. Yes. So we try to bring it to the user in a very friendly way, that you can have it how you would do it in real life with clicking everything, but also if you just want to get in and fly a quick round or just look at it quickly, you can also join the click spots to be one. And it's not only the visuals. So for instance, if we walk back to the oxygen panel, which is also here, you can also do things like refill your oxygen bottles.
Wow,
Yes,
so you're just looking at the panel over here, that's our gauges. Now, you just showed me something awesome. Tell the audience about it.
Yes, so I really enjoy having interactive things and also having them simulated properly, especially with good physics behind it. And I thought, what would happen if you leave your plane out in the wild for a good amount of time, let's say 5 years? What would happen to the oxygen? The bottles would leak. You would lose some oxygen, and we simulated that. So for instance, you leave your plane, and this is with state saving, so it's going to use the in-sim time. If you leave your plane out for 5 years, you're gonna lose half the pressure in your tanks. And yeah, you can refill them with the click spots at the bottom, those little bottles. And yeah, so yes, those. Now, if you would set the time back, you would get a bit of an overfill. So I would suggest you to just set it back and then refill them to 1,800 psi again. But yeah. And also they react to temperature, so we have it's all mapped to the real thing. So if you change your temperature, you're gonna see a difference in the pressure, and that will also affect how it's being used in the cabin or in the cockpit.
That's quite an amazing system depth though there, and it isn't just indicators and visuals over here, but what I noticed when I turned around during the pre-flight over here is that when we are refilling these things, then we're actually getting the corresponding animations over here as well, and have the handling bring on oxygen bottles to fill that up. That's so cool. Now, of course, there isn't just that one panel. There's so much more on the outside of the airplane over here that we are just about going to have a look at right now. So for example, there's the fuel panel back here. We can actually take the cap off. Now we are recording this one with pre-release version. A little more stuff is going to be added, but talk about stuff being added. There's a lot of nice stuff on this airplane. Let's just go ahead and walk after a little bit and see what else we can possibly find. Ooh, here's something.
So, yeah, someone didn't take care of the airplane very well on the last flight, as it seems, and left the fuel cap open. If you don't do your pre-flight, that could become a problem if you don't put it back in and lock it. It will actually fly off the wing as you accelerate down the runway.
So you're telling me if I mess that up, I'm gonna get in trouble?
Yeah, you would have to buy a new fuel cap, so I don't know. I think operations wouldn't be too happy about it, and also maybe leaving stuff on the runway is not the best idea for any flight departing after you.
Now the real question, does Marketplace support buying new fuel caps?
I fear it doesn't.
So there's an incredible amount of detail on the lights on the outside of the wing over here as well. That's just looking really insane, is it? Now,
yeah, we went to the real airplane, recorded everything. Yeah.
Just really also fantastic. So
yeah, and you also see the static hover. Someone forgot. It's also not good. You have 18 of those small ones. That could be quite a pity to take them off and on all individually. So again, on the EFB you can merge them, so you don't have to spend hours just fiddling with the covers before departing.
But that's an insane level of detail that you got on the outside model over here. Now, our plane's been standing for quite a while over here while we enjoyed the beautiful area around. Is there anything that we need to do before we run inside and set her up, except of course for removing the engine covers up here?
Yeah, removing the covers, and you also hear the engine blades clacking right now in the wind. The sounds were done by Boris, so I quite enjoyed them, and they're also really reacting to the environment and everything. And when we start the engines later, or before we start the engines, maybe we want to use the ground power unit, so you can toggle that actually on the exterior to get the ground power. And the same would go for the batteries of the airplane. So if you would leave the airplane out for some time, you actually disconnect the 28 volt DC batteries, which are behind those. You have two of them, two compartments. They're connected right now, so but you can disconnect them, and if you disconnect them, you can't power up the airplane anymore because, well, you don't have battery. And yeah, so I suggest you two now connect it if we want to depart later.
Alright, that's pretty neat. And then of course there is the most important thing on the entire airplane, and that's the shithole down here, but that's the drainage for the toilet tank, is it? That you can actually operate down here.
Yeah.
In a two-stage simulation, as I just found out, so you gotta move those separately. That's cool.
Yes. Again, you can merge everything from the EFB, so I wanted to give the option. I really enjoyed it on the hot start. It's one of my favorite add-ons. So I wanted to bring it to Microsoft Flight Simulator now as well. And I noticed that some people did not quite like having, especially with some parts like the baggage store, as we may see in a few seconds. There are quite a few click spots. So
tell me how to open this one.
So you really first want to open those small latches, because the baggage compartment is like it's rather big. Also the doors, so there's a lot of force and they don't have a lot of power, so you don't want to break them. But now you can open the handle and you will see the baggage door popping out ever so slightly. And now if you click on the and now you can open it with you just click on top of it.
Wow, that's fantastic. And we even have steps on here so that we could step inside, but what do you do if it's dark?
You have a light switch to your right that you can use to not only light up the baggage compartment, as a matter of fact, but also the engine pylons have some lights. They're called maintenance lights. Further up, right at the front, you can barely see them. Yeah, there you see them.
Over here.
Yeah, it looks quite nice during the night, and also if you turn on, those are actually also hooked up to the entry lights that you can toggle from the cockpit. And yeah, so when boarding and deboarding the passengers, you see some nice lights on the ground beneath the engines.
Wow, that's an insane level of detail that we're getting on the outside over here. Now, let's go ahead, close all that up. We're just gonna check on the second battery and make sure that that is connected. And yeah, looks like our pre-flight services have done that already. Otherwise, as Lucas just mentioned, the thing would probably not be powering up when we press the switches on the inside. But let's just have another look at the main landing gear over here, where we got the chocks, which we can remove as well. And
yeah,
then...
don't forget the other ones.
Oh, they're individual. Alright, so that would probably have gotten fancy. Alright, so let's get around over here, and this time the fuel cap is in on this side. Alright, and then we got the nose wheel chocks down there as well. So just gotta get rid of the oxygen over here. And then we can get inside and start our brand new aircraft up. Alright, here we go. So you toggle and untoggle the ground services by clicking on them. First click brings you the card, second click puts it away again, but that's just so lovely. That is so lovely. Alright, so caps are closed. Let's go ahead and make our way around and just enjoy the beauty. Just enjoy the beauty of this airplane, which is really looking fantastic. Alright, so we talked about it prior to the start of the video. How can I open that door?
So it's exactly how you would do it in real life. So first of all, you have to push in that little latch so you can actually reach for the handle. And now you click on the handle, like where you would grab it, exactly. Open it, and then you click at the top of the door, right there, that works, to open it.
That's so lovely. That is so lovely. Alright, here we are. So guys, join me inside of our fantastic new aircraft. Now we do have a fantastic cabin as well. 8 seats in here, plus a flight attendant seat. Yeah, this is the type of airplane where you could have a flight attendant. It's not legally mandatory since we're below 19 passengers. But we could absolutely carry one, and it wouldn't be unlikely to have one. Now let's just quickly go through the cabin and have a look at it from the back to the front. So we're starting right here in the very back, and this is where you would carry your luggage. And by the way, you can access the luggage compartment from within the passenger cabin. That's pretty nice. Now let's go ahead and close that one up again.
So this compartment, I just want to mention that you just entered, is called the aft water barrier compartment, and that would be that red thing you see there. And you use it to, if you have like a ditching, you have to ditch the airplane, you would use that thing to put it around the door. So if you open the main door, the cabin is not going to get flooded.
Oh, that's nice. Alright, so that's that. Now talk about water. We do have a toilet in here, but can you close doors?
You can close the door, yeah, you can close the door, and we have the entire lavatory system simulated. So the sink and the lavatory, they work. They have tanks that are persistent. The reason it doesn't work right now is because you don't have power to the interior cabin, so the water pump for both the sink and the loo are not powered right now, but we can have a look at that later.
Wow, and I can see you can toggle the window blinds over here as well, so that the sun isn't shining in your face while you're taking a dump. Well, that's fantastic. Now, obviously there's a toilet over here. I'm not gonna click this, but let's just put it that way. They have a huge level of detail in this airplane, including the toilet. And there's a flush on the side, by the way. That's also working. Alright, so let's close that back down, and let's go right up to the front. So, lovely cloth seating configuration over here. You won't find any handles for the window shades because it's all electrically controlled, and we're gonna have a look into that later on. But for the time being, tables fully simulated over there, then overall just a fantastic cabin simulation. Now, let's go ahead and walk to the front. We're going to have a look into the electronic controllers that we have over here in a few moments, but let's just have a look in here. Did you model like every hatch in the cabin?
I believe so, yes. You even have right behind the seats, you would see the manuals in the compartments. So at the bottom right, the black thing, yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And,
that's just
yes.
incredible. Got the curtain as well. Alright. That's such a beautifully modeled cabin. And just listen to the fans spinning there that you can actually hear due to the open door. It's quite an amazing environment just to be around this airplane, even when it's just cold and dark. Alright, but now let's go ahead and get up to the front. Now, the flight deck. The Sovereign has a Garmin G5000 installed. A little different from the 3000 that you guys know from the Phenom and other aircraft. We do have the fourth controller here. If you are flying the default Citation, then you are probably familiar. But before we power anything up, people often say like, yeah, we do just have those default working title avionics. There is nothing in the systems. I'm like, hold on a moment. Can you tell us something about how deep those systems are that you're simulating?
It could be, I mean, we can start just from the CPDLC alone like that. We wanted to make sure, I think for me, CPDLC was a huge feature that I wanted. I didn't implement it myself, but we have another developer on the team who's been working on a lot of the avionics, including the synoptics and the CPDLC and ACAR simulation that you would see in the airplane today. And we made it compatible, so you can use it for Hoppy, Iveo. Well, I guess Hoppy includes Iveo and VATSIM, as well as Say Intentions beyond ATC. And it's basically a full-fledged simulation of what the ACARs or in the CPDLC would work in the Garmin unit. There's just so much level of detail. The messages alone that you can do in the G5000, I think it's upwards of like 150 or 200 messages you could probably do. It took a while to implement those, but we finally got all the references for those. And I think we did a really good job at capturing how intuitive Garmin made that system to the pilots. And on top of that, we've done the bare minimum. We've done, you know, the synoptics, all of the airplane pages that you would see in your aircraft systems. I've also added a few key things that I personally like to use during my flight. So that would include like the trip statistics page under the utilities page, or the DATIS page, which we would be able to use with FAA DATIS, VATSIM, and I believe some of the network providers like Say Intentions and Beyond ATC. And we've also implemented text NOTAMs, so you can actually view your NOTAMs from your SimBrief flight plan in the avionics as well, and we can demonstrate that.
Wow. We are going to have a full look into that later on. Now, would you say that your airplane is study level, or would you say that it's high fidelity, or where would you classify yourself?
I guess that's up to the person to decide. I think everybody has a different definition for practically anything we consider, you know, the fidelity of an airplane. Study level can mean one thing to another person, but honestly, I think with what we did, the original expectation with the Sovereign, probably a few months back last year, was kind of get it into the realm of what you would see with like the default longitude, maybe the Citation 10 or a little bit beyond that and whatnot. But recently, since then, especially, you know, when I've gone on board and then we've picked up more and more references of the real airplane, we've kind of taken it a step further, and the main factor in that was the electrical system, which essentially kind of we basically built a brand new airplane since December because of the new electrical system. Because as we've kind of revamped that entire thing, I wouldn't even consider our electrical architecture to be pilot level at this point. I remember looking in the flight safety operating manual for the electrical system, thinking, oh, you know, you got like your electrical, your avionics bus, interior and whatnot, and then I really look at the maintenance side of the airplane and kind of get it looks like a completely different airplane to me, and I wanted to be able to simulate that because the possibilities were almost endless with what we could do. And I think that with a truly well simulated electrical system, we were able to take that as a foundation and build other systems on top of that, which just provide, you know, like amazing results. We've simulated everything down to the individual printed circuit boards on the airplane and all of their logic conditions. So it's almost like one-to-one in how the, I guess you could say, the automated or the normal behavior of the airplane works. We basically simulated that to the logic board level, and it kind of builds on top of that. It may not seem obvious to many people, but it kind of shows that regardless of what the pilot sees, it was something we've kind of changed our scope in between development, and it was something we wanted to recreate. And I think everybody, at least on the testing team, has taken that response really well, and it's just so nice to see how far it's come. And
that does, of course,
hydraulics,
include the real-life pilots that are on your team as well, right?
Of course, yeah. So we have a number of Sovereign Plus pilots, also a number of regular Sovereign pilots and Latitude pilots. So the Sovereign Plus, and the Latitude all share the same type rating, essentially, at least in the U.S. So we're able to kind of take feedback from any of those pilots, and we have multiple of them. I think we're up to number 6 on the team. Plus, we have an entire array of other real-world pilots that fly for a living, who are able to contribute and kind of provide feedback as well. But we've always taken the step to consult our pilots first, get feedback from them. You know, if we don't have the answer to something, I'll always go to them. They played a big part in our flight model development. And I've also, you know, asked them a ton of stuff about the systems that you may not just find in some of the pilot manuals. It's, you know, sometimes these documentation is, or the pilot documentation at least, is pretty ambiguous. So you can kind of figure out what happens to the pilot, at least, like what they can see, but what happens underneath, we wanted to be able to capture that as well and really make it so that what you're seeing is kind of essentially a domino effect of everything coming to play with respect to systems.
That sounds really, really great. And now, I'd say there was a lot of talk about the theoretics over here and of how you perceive your airplane. Now let's see how me as a standard simmer is going to perceive it. And let's go ahead and power the airplane up and take her for a short flight. Now, let's take a seat in the captain's seat over here. Now, we just talked about this prior to the beginning of the video, like, how do you power the airplane up? I was like, I press the battery switches. And you told me, like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. So, let's go ahead and do it the realistic way here. We're starting up here on the emergency lights, gonna put that on. Have a look in the back, and we can see the exit lights illuminate, and the seating lights are illuminating. Now, with power still not applied to the airplane, the emergency lights should also be on when we put the switch into the arm position, and we can see that that's indeed the case. So, now, let's go ahead and move down here and test the standby power. Hold that in test position. That for some 10 seconds, making sure that the lights remain green. And then let's go ahead and turn the standby power switch on. Light turns amber, telling us the battery is being drained, and now we can turn her on. Is that the right way?
Yep, you pretty much got it.
Fantastic. So just listen to the wonderful sounds here during the startup sequence. And now let's turn the external power on as well. Here we go. Alright, so everything is coming up. We are opening our GTCs on the standard initialization page, but there's a couple of things that we could just bring up while we are in that sequence.
Okay.
So let's just go ahead and get the summary page on the left side over here. On the right side, let's bring up, say, the electrical systems. We are going to have a little more detailed look into those a little bit later. But for now, let's go ahead and start a bit of an airplane setup. Now, the Sovereign Plus is equipped with an electronic checklist, but you told me you had to search for one for quite the while, did you?
Yeah, most of the pilots in the Sovereign Pluses that we found online did not have the checklist enabled. So I was basically hesitant to implement it in the first place, and then eventually we came across, I think it was just an aircraft listing of a Sovereign Plus, and they fortunately had a cockpit screenshot of the GTCs on the homepage, and it wasn't grayed out. So I was like, all right, that's all I need. And we've managed to pull the checklist from another pilot who had access to what they had in their own airplane, and we were able to implement that kind of one-to-one.
So we can say that there is at least 2 Sovereign Pluses out there that do have the electronic checklist. Alright, I just think that it is such a useful thing to have down there, because it is designed as a read-and-do checklist, so it kind of guides you around the airplane. You don't have to learn everything by heart. Well, you do in the real world, but you know what I mean for flight simulation. You can just read and do the stuff. That just makes flying it so much easier, because this is an easy airplane to fly, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when you look at it, there's really not much to do. I mean, obviously, we'll still do all the proper tests and everything that we need to do to ensure the airplane is safe to fly and whatnot. But the Garmin checklist, it kind of like holds your hand essentially in the pre-flight, so you can walk through it one by one. And I honestly recommend anyone for who's doing their first flight to just use the checklist in the GTCs, or we also have the checklist in the EFB that you can use if you kind of want to keep that external to the avionics.
Alright, so the EFB, not hidden down here in the pocket, but when we get it out, we have it right up here, and pretty much within our usual line of sight on the left-hand side. Let's use the opportunity to just go over some of the basics we got in the EFB over here. So the home screen just gives us an overview. Then we got the services, and this page is quite insane. So we can start with the ground access page, where you can see everything that you can open on the outside model. Then we're going over the ground services, where you can see we've once again got a lot of stuff that we can do down here. And then we're moving on to the payload page, which we are definitely going to use right now, because I do want to put on 4 passengers for our flight today, and maybe also a little bit in the cargo bay. Now, our plane is set to kilos right now, can change it over to pounds in the settings. So let's just go ahead and say we got 30 kilos in the cargo bay as well. Now, the moment I select all of this, it automatically loads into the airplane, does it?
Yes.
Fantastic. So we got our weight and balance graph to know that we're legal to fly over here, and then we can move on. We got the electrical, where you can once again check for the batteries to be connected. If your plane's not turning or powering up, that's the page you want to head to. Then we got the hydraulics, where we got the hydraulic reservoir. System pressure, of course, it's off at the moment. Then the vanity services. Told you the shithole is simulated. And then we got the oxygen that we can also see on the outside panel of the aircraft. So overall, a lot of lovely stuff in here that would basically deserve its very own tutorial. But for the time being, I just want to show you that this is there. Now, moving on to the flight plan, we got our SimBrief flight plan, which we can quickly import from Saint-Tropez to Lugano. And I think this is that in kilograms? It is, huh? 14 tons takeoff weight? Sounds like kilograms.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we also have the Navigraph charts available down there. And here's the checklists that you came up with. Now we do have the short form normal checklists. Also have the long form normal checklists down here, which tell you exactly how everything needs to be done. Then there's the abnormal checklists, which pretty much cover all the CAS messages you can get down here. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Fantastic. And last but not least, We do have the emergency checklists, which are things that are outside of what the CAS would just tell you. As you can see with things like engine failure or other emergency during takeoff, that type of stuff. Really useful. This is how you can learn to fly the airplane just like a professional pilot would. Last but not least, we have the settings, and this is a pretty long system. So I'm just going to show you what's there. We're not going to discuss everything in detail because this video is probably already going to get 2 hours long, and I don't want to drag it on to 3 hours. So as you can see, lots of stuff available over here. Also in the simulation menu, you have a lot of things like realistic park and brake, like the click spot options we talked about on the outside. We also have that useful one that I do want to point out, which is the auto yoke hiding. You can see by default, the yoke is kind of blocking your view of all the switches and the left GTC. When you enable that option, you can see the yoke goes down to enable your view when you're looking down, and it comes back up when you're looking up, so that the system knows you're looking at, you know, the screen, the outside, and everything. Now that's a really neat option, isn't it? I really do like that one. Now I'm gonna leave it on for the purpose of today's flight. Then of course we got things like visual settings, pilot and crew visibility, performance setting here to hide the display glass effects, and so on. Now, talk about the audio system. It's Boris, so of course there is active noise cancellation available that we are going to have a look at in the cruise. And you've got that little setting here that I really liked. So you can change the volume of the view on the outside. By default it's 50%. For those of you guys who are sometimes changing between inside and outside view in your flight simulator and then get your ears blown away just by switching to the outside, well, that's exactly what you can control in that setting, so that's really nice. And the same also applies to the effects during the walk around, which you can control in that volume as well. So that's really well thought out. If you guys want a realistic difference between inside and outside, by all means you can blow your ears away. If you know, want to use your ears in the future, that's the settings that you would be looking for. Now going on, we do have pause or top of descent, and there is also an option to control the time acceleration, which is really useful because remember, this plane can go 3,000 miles and further. Last but not least, third-party options. You can of course synchronize it with your Navigraph account, you can enter your SimReef user ID, and you can synchronize it with VATSIM, Beyond ATC, and Say Intentions, and of course IVAO. And lastly, there's a setup guide down here, which tells you a little bit of information on how to connect that stuff using the GTCs. So, really nice electronic flight bag, has everything we need, and I do hope that I kinda covered the most important things. Now guys, I'm just trying to, you know, not let the guys from Skyward start talking too much on this, because one experience that I made is if you get a developer who spent years coming up with this and let them loose talking, you're going to be sitting here for 10 hours. We might be doing that someday, but I want to show you the airplane. My apologies, gentlemen.
Don't worry, it keeps me in check, and Lucas too.
You're the ones rating my flight at the end of the day, so
Yeah.
you'll keep me in check as well over here. Alright then guys, that's the electronic flight bag. Really, really nice thing, and really, really well modeled. Okay, so we've done that. Now let's go ahead and have a look into the checklists here. So we'll start with the abbreviated normal checklist, and that's pre-flight inspection complete. The nose landing gear torque link is connected, engine pitot, APU, and static wing covers are removed and stowed. Circuit breakers are all in. The emergency light switch is on arm. Then stamper power switch tested, then on. Battery buttons on. Oxygen quantity checked. APU, GPU. So it's pretty hot outside. It's like 29 degrees. You guys think we should start the APU?
Yeah, I would say
Yeah, let's
so.
do it.
Alright, then let's do that. Now, there is one thing that I'm just quickly going to show off before we do that, and that's the temperature simulation in this aircraft. So it's pretty hot outside. Once we turn on the electrical interior button, the controllers at the seats are going to start up. And I just want to show you that. let's turn that on, run to the back. We can see the startup sequence taking place down here. Now everything's initialized, and of course in an airplane like this that you can grab currently used for about 10 million, you do have individual temperature controllers here. On that one you can also nicely see the current temperature, which is 29 degrees. So let's go ahead and get the air conditioning going, so that we can make it a bit nicer when our people
Also, I want to point out something. So the controls for the, temperatures are grayed out right now.
Yeah.
And that is because in the GTC you actually have to change it so the passengers can control it. So as of right now, it's controlled by the cockpit.
Okay. So, anyone who's going to say that this is just a default G5000, take that. So, cabin management, and then we're down here on the controller.
You have to go one back and then do temperatures.
Alright, here we go.
And then you see cabin control. Now it's in control of the cabin.
Fantastic. And now, going back. Here we are. So let's make it like, in my experience, passengers like 24 degrees best. You put it to 21, even though that's best in, you know, a normal room. People are gonna complain it's too cold. So let's set 24 down there for that one particular seat. The others, we don't care about. Alright, and we'll do the same over here. Great. So, all those lovely things, all interconnected, really, really lovely. So, let's go ahead and continue with our APU start. So, APU start itself. How complicated could it possibly be? Not complicated at all. Turn it on, automatically runs the APU fire test.
So funny you should say it's not complicated, you actually did not turn it on just yet.
I did what? For how long do I have to hold the starter button?
No, so you have to switch. Okay, I let John.
Yeah. So yeah, this is always a good one when we have some pilots just crank the APU to start, kind of like what you would do in like a Boeing airplane, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put it, usually what you want to do is put the APU knob to on, because right when you do that, the ECUs power on, and then the fire smoke logic board basically sends an input to the APU fire test to commence, and this is checking for your rapid discharge fire bottle as well as your meter discharge, and then it's also checking that the APU probe, the fire sensor, is working. And there might be one other thing I forgot about it, but then once you see that, which is basically what happens when you see that that fire test illuminate, that will happen, and then you'll look up at the MFD to kind of make sure that you see the digits. We call them the green digits of the APU, RPM, and EGT. Once you see those, then you're good to start, and then that's where you put it to start. So what you might have to do is try putting it to start. All right, it does start. Sometimes, if you kind of immediately put it to start, the APU won't start just because of that. So yeah, once it passes essentially the fire test, then the starter will kick in.
All right.
There you go. You can see the RPMs coming up. And now your GPU or your generator's connected. So
fantastic. So guys, that's about the level of system depth that we're talking about over here, with everything modeled that's going on in the background there as well. There's no way to see that for the pilot just by looking at the instruments, but that's the level of system depth that we are talking about that's going on in the Sovereign Plus. Just fantastic, isn't it? Alright, so APU on, test, start. And that's what we've done. And if APU in use, APU bleed air on. Alright, so that's down here. Turn it on. You just listen to the magic work of Boris in the background with everything turning on. Absolutely lovely. Alright, bus type verify closed. So, it's showing open right now. Is that because I turned the electrical interior button on too early?
No, that's because you have the external power on. So the system won't allow you to have two generators on the same, like for one side at the same time. So see, it's open because you have the external power powering the right side and the APU powering the left side. If you disconnect the external power, if you hit the button, you will see the bus type will close.
And here we have it. So...
Yep, and that bus tie system also, real quick, is completely automated on the ground. So even when you press the bus tie on the ground, it actually doesn't do anything, because that's all handled by the electrical logic board. So in the air, then it's all up to the pilot. It's completely manual. On the ground, it kind of makes sure that, for example, you can't have the APU generator and the left generator running, or the external power and the right generator running.
That's fantastic. I mean, guys, this is the level of system depth that we usually see with airplanes like the Phoenix or like the Leonardo Mad Dog. That's what we're getting over here. Just want to mention that here. Alright, so let's continue. So we got the interior button on, and I did that a little earlier. Tail floodlight on at night, not gonna do that right now. So, landing gear handle, down 3 green. So the handle is over here, and the 3 greens are up here. Alright, CBR button test. That's down here. Hold for 5 seconds, then we're waiting for the light. And here it is. Okay, so, control lock, off or as desired for conditions. Guys, what do you think? How many people are going to take off and find themselves in the rock at the end of the runway? How many people are going to do the German first officer?
First day or in total?
Let's just start with the first day.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see quite a few.
Might be like 70%.
So guys, do take the note over here. Here's the control lock. The thing is lock by default. You can see I can't move my controls over here, even though I am moving my physical joystick. Now, when you release that thing, now your controls are working. The plane has some protections built in. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll also point out. Go ahead. Actually,
if that's on,
yep, there you go.
can see I moved both my hardware thrust levers full forward. So if only your right engine spools up, there's that. And I think that's what you wanted to point out. My apologies.
Yeah.
Control lock on.
There are 3 basically proximity sensors for the aileron, elevator, and rudder gust lock. So if any one of those proximity sensors of the gust lock for the primary flight controls are engaged, then there's a solenoid in the throttle quadrant that prevents the left throttle to go, I think it's past like 40%.
And that is going to save a lot of simmers. But I'm 99% sure there will be some who are going to disregard all of that. And so, as per the checklist, control lock off. And look at that, now I can move my throttles. Alright. So next up we got the initialization complete. So let's go ahead and go down to the initialization. And just start a bit of a setup over here. Starting the weight and balance side, crew and stores. Now, we are 2 pilots up here. Now, here's the problem. We got a lady sitting here. If I call her 180 pounds standard weight, let's just say we're 320 pounds total, huh? We just gotta. I want to survive the day. Alright, for the passengers, we got 4 of them on board, and they're at 190 pounds. Does that match your default weights?
Yeah,
I would have to. Yeah, 190 might be right. Can you go to the operating weight real quick?
Of course.
Yeah, it's the first tab you were just on with the crew and stores.
That's that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do actually we do have some of the weights simulated where you would have like basically in the forward galley and whatnot. So you would probably look at more around the lines of 860 pounds.
Oh wow!
So that includes you and your pilots and basically everything in the forward refreshment center, your charts, all that.
Alright, and I guess I forgot to confirm it on the set empty weight button as well, did I?
No, that's fine. So your basic empty weight is 17,831. That's the actual empty weight of the airplane. All you have to do is just put in the crew and stores, and then it pulls your basic operating weight at that point.
Alright, fantastic. So we got 4 passengers plus 100 pounds in the back. Then for our takeoff fuel, let's see what we got right now. We're 3,740 pounds. And I think for this flight it's probably going to be more than enough. But let's just verify that. Yeah, we need 1,500 kilos plus tax. You call it 1,600 kilos. So times 2 we have pounds. So we're probably good to go over here with what we got. So let's enter 3720. Like that, and just fuel mode sync. I guess that's easiest. Alright, and for the landing, fuel reserves. Now, for that we got 279 plus 422. So we're looking at roughly 700. I'm gonna call it 1,400 pounds. That way we are on the safe side over here. Okay, so then let's continue on. Next is our flight plan. So, how do we import that?
So if you want to import it from SimBrief, you would go to Services.
Yep.
Then go to ACARS. And then Flight Plan Request.
So guys, that's how this is supposed to work. And that's how it is implemented. In general, the Services tab has seen lots of changes on this airplane with all the data link added, so that's really, really nice. Alright, so let's go ahead and import this. And here we go. Alright, so we got that one added. Then let's just go back up in our plan and see. So there's no SID that we're gonna follow. And then we got our entire route that's been added automatically down there. And then we can just go into the arrivals. So procedure, arrival. And we have the Serrano 5 Foxtrot arrival. And the planned runway is 01. And that is looking good. Now, we could just go ahead and get a preview on the map over here, just so that we can visualize what we got. And we're ending up at Pendular. Let's go ahead and load that thing. And then let's enter the approach as well. So GPS approach runway 01. We'll take vectors, and we can just preview that one as well. This is what it looks like. As you can see, Pendular has us right on the final, and then from Caldo, we're going to fly that approach. Alright, and with that, our flight plan is all added. So let's just go to the VNAV page here real quick. VNAV is enabled. Then on the climb page, what would typical speeds for the Sovereign Plus look like?
So if you press climb schedule, we should have a default profile, and this is what's in the Cessna performance manual, which is 250 to 0.64. Some operators in real life, I think they climb at like 270 to 0.65, but this is kind of what we've stuck to, since the climb performance tables and whatnot are purely based off that profile there.
Fantastic. The transition altitudes automatically determined, I think? I mean, we don't have an SID in, but you still pull it from the airport, do you?
So we don't do that. That's handled by working title for the transition altitude.
Alright. So, 250 below 10,000. Well, we're not going to fly faster anyway. Terminal area speed limit. Do we need any? I would say we actually do, because we're in an area with intense VFR traffic. I'm going to slow it down. Yeah, not to 600 knots. I'm going to slow it down to, like what, 200 knots? Should you fly well at that speed?
Yeah, 200 is nice medium.
Alright, and we're going to do that to 6,000, just, you know, and 10 miles. Just so that we gain a bit of altitude and get around at least most of the dentists flying out there. Alright, for the cruise, we're going to go with the maximum cruise 300.8, and we'll do the descent later on. Alright, so down to the takeoff data. And for that, we can pick our departure runway. Now, we don't know what the weather is, so let's go ahead and look that up. So, let's take the SimBrief weather right over here. Okay, my bad. Right over here. So, no weather data available. That's not because of your airplane. That's because Saint-Tropez is one of those airports where you just don't have published METAR, is it?
Yeah, so what you could probably do, I guess, is you can use the nearest page and then look for an airport that does have weather nearby. So that's going to be in the bottom right of the GTC.
Mm-hmm.
Go to airport. And then, yeah, you could probably just pick one of the bigger airports.
Alright, let's take Con. I do think they should have weather. And they do have weather. So, Con is giving us variable 2 knots, so we're just going to call it 5 knots of tailwind, just to be on the safe side here. Now, looking at here, with no weather, We're probably going to take the easy option, and the one that's not facing the mountains. So it'll be runway 06 for our departure. So let's go to the origin, runway 06. Then, weather, wind, I'm gonna call it 240 degrees at 5 knots, just to be on the safe side here. And the temperature outside is 29 degrees centigrade. We could also just have used the SEMS temperature, could we? Alright, so, runway data is in here, takeoff config. You'll think we're probably gonna take flaps 2 for this one. 1000...
Oh, you could?
What do the
1 or
experts
2,
say?
what do
We've
they say?
got 3,499 feet. Flaps 1 gonna work?
We can check. Yeah, we can check. It'll tell you. So
This is
flaps
too
1.
easy. Alright, so here's all that stuff. Take a data. Easy.
Oh yeah,
Very
no problem.
easy. Alright,
So before we proceed, I want to interrupt you quickly. We've been talking about the water system, and as you were in the exterior view, I noticed something. Namely, you clicked on the sink before, and the sink doesn't have a tank to catch the water, and your sink is still on. So if you go to the outside view, you are seeing a puddle of water.
Whoopsie! Alright, well guys, do put it down in the comments. Does anyone volunteer to clean that mess up?
It's only for washing your hands. It's not, it's only water. So the lavatory system will not drain on the tarmac, but...
Alright, well let's go ahead and stop that one.
Yeah, your tank might be empty. I don't know if it's still...
Yeah. Alright, so that was the,
Yeah, it's empty.
yeah, that was the left button?
Yeah, both of them.
I think it was just a toggle, so you might not be able to tell if it's on or not.
Yeah, you would actually...
unless you...
Yeah.
Okay, so we just gotta refill that real quick. Let's go down to the services and the vanity services, and yep, look at that,
yeah.
I completely drained the tank. Alright, let's put those 7
And
liters
it's
back
still
in.
active, by the way, so you would have to turn it off quickly.
Ooh, okay. So just to be sure, that was me putting the sink on, was it?
Yep.
Oh yeah, that is me putting the sink on. Here we go. Alright. So guys, if you want to spray some chemtrails, now you know where to put the chemicals. Okay. And now it's stopped, okay. 6.8 liters on board. That should work out. Well guys, learning something new every day. Thank you so much. Alright, let's accept those takeoff speeds, and on we go. So, with that we got the system tests. Auto test button is disabled, so we gotta do them all ourselves, do we?
Yeah, so that auto test button is actually for the auto test on the summary page. Those auto tests that you see on the Synoptic, on the MFD, those are automatic on power up. The reason why you see the fuel pressures are not done yet is because those are basically tested once the engines are running. So once the engines are running, we'll probably be able to see it go to testing for a few seconds, and then if all is well, it'll go to pass. But for the GTC system tests, there's no way to automatically do them. You just run through them one by one.
Alright. And I guess the emphasis is one by one, not all at the same time, is it?
Right, so yeah, I mean now, for the stall warning, you're basically checking the left shaker turns on, the right shaker turns on, and then both will turn on. You're looking for the cast message AOA probe fail. Now with the engine fire, it's going to test. You're looking for the lights, you got the 2 lights. Master warning caution.
Yep.
And it'll play those 3 times.
Alright.
Smoke detect, you're going to look kind of by the control lock. You got baggage fire. those two lights light up, those are good.
All right. Then we got the enunciators.
Yeah, it's gonna be real quick, making sure everything is good.
Now, I suppose in an airplane as modern as this one, you can't just change a bulb yourself, right?
Nah, I don't believe so.
Yeah.
So we're just making sure the aura works. And that you can just skip. Like once you basically hear the overspeed, you can go on to the HF1 and HF2 and whatnot.
Fantastic. So HF
and
tests,
these,
don't do them during refueling, I suppose.
Yeah, and you're not going to see anything apart from just the result. But these are just making sure the antennas and whatnot are powered.
All right. Great. So we're basically done with the tests. If any of them failed, would it give us some sort of notice?
Yeah. So let's do a demo. So let's go to the let me think about this. If I remember correctly. Gotta find the circuit breaker for it. I gotta make sure it's even in the cockpit. 1 second. You may not be able to do it.
Skip the demo for today. I think we're gonna blow the boundary.
Yeah, it may be better. I'm just looking at it 56 minutes in. We want it to be almost unapproached by now. But that's always how it goes. Remember, guys, when I told you a little while ago that we should never just let a developer talk uncontrolled? No, you guys stop me when I'm talking uncontrolled, so let's accept the initialization and then we're done for the time being. Alright, so initialization is complete, is clearance flight plan is programmed, trim stabilizers, 3 standards, step trim set for takeoff. So, I suppose we do get that info down here?
No, so we're going to attach a chart. The onboard takeoff computer and in the real thing does not give you a trim setting. Usually what pilots have told us is they like to kind of set it around 3 to 3.5. 3 is probably the most common, and that'll put you in the green band and a good feeling on takeoff and whatnot.
Alright, sounds good. So that's done. Cabin, catering, water ice, trash and cabin seats are checked, and clarity music. Music on. Set cabin temperatures. Alright, so you guys have music on board, do you?
We do.
I suppose we'll just walk to the back over here. Get back to that controller. By the way, you can't just use this one. You can also use the controllers on all the other seats. They're all fully modeled. And yeah. Let's get on the music for our guests.
Yeah, we got some lovely music here.
And cool thing, if you want to keep playing it, go back to the cockpit.
Yep.
Well, keep playing it actually.
Okay.
So if you keep playing it there, and then we go back to the cockpit, we'll go to the GTCs. You go to on the top left where it says audio and radios. You'll be able to scroll down, and you'll see the speaker. You can adjust the volume there, or mute it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
You would have to click and drag for the volume, but we've also implemented that, and that's also going to be in the cabin management page. There's a cabin speaker mute button.
Wow.
So you can control that.
In other words, if the guys are watching their soccer and you can't hear the approach controller giving your ILS clearances anymore, that's where to do it.
Yeah.
Alright. So, and speaker mute. That's just fantastic. That's just really fantastic. Alright. I'm gonna switch that off for the time being, but that's more because I want you guys to be able to hear everything. Now, we're gonna get back to these screens in flight. Let's go ahead and get right back up to the flight deck, and let's just take that thing off, because there is too much to play down there. Alright, so we've got our passengers. Let's just quickly set up our initial climb. The Sovereign Plus climbs pretty rapidly, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So
it's not uncommon to see anywhere from like 4 to 8,000 feet per minute, depending on weight, temperature, and so on.
Lovely. Just lovely. So let's go ahead and go to the fine-tuning here. We'll be cruising in 340 today, so I'm just gonna set that one straight away. Let's also have a look at the QNH, so 1026, and we can set that up here. 1026, and then we got our standby. We got 1026 as well, and then the right hand side as well. Alright, lovely. We got that stuff, then we can press the toga switches to get the flight director armed, and with that we are pretty much ready up there, are we?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Fantastic, so let's go ahead. Is it normal that we're seeing the dashes over here for the takeoff speeds?
Yeah, so the Garmin did a really nice job with this. The airplane will not post your V-speeds unless you are configured for what you've inputted into the takeoff or landing calculator. Well, mostly takeoff. So, since you put in flaps 1, it's not going to post until you put in flaps 1.
Wow, so that's a really cool system. Really, really cool system. Okay then, I'd say we've got about everything done right now, so how about we close her up and get her ready. So let's just have a look on the outside. A puddle is still there, of course. I think we can remove the ground power unit, because we are already running on the APU right now. So, and this is what I meant with the volumes on the outside. So you can hear this is kind of realistic difference between being on the inside of the airplane and on the outside of the airplane. I hope you guys can even hear that in the first place. So let's go ahead and pull that plug. Shut the door. And with that, let's go ahead, close up, and get on the way. So guys, if that is a little bit too loud to you, you can always adjust it in the EFB settings, but I really wanted to show you that in action, because I think it is a very nice feature to have all those differences. So, I'm wondering if my neighbors have called the police already, but let's go ahead and close up. So, first step and second step. And that's it, is it? So,
yep.
Let's go ahead and get inside. And then we can start with the B4 engine start checklist. Let's park and brake verify on. Now, we don't see anything for the park and brake over here. So that means, if we just pull it, you get the park and brake low pressure warning because we have no hydraulic pressure at the moment. Now, how can we change that? What can we do about it?
So you can turn on the auxiliary. You can turn on the auxiliary hydraulic pump. Kind of right. Yep.
Right up here.
You'll verify that you're getting hydraulic pressure. It's going to build up to about 2,700 RPM, or sorry, PSI. And then you get a hydraulic aux pump on the cast, and now you can just tap your toe brakes fully.
Yep.
Oh yeah, so you have the handle. There you go. Then tap the toe brakes, and then you kind of have to give them a good push.
All right, that is maximum. What am I doing wrong?
You have you're pressing both pedals.
Both pedals fully. Now pull this out.
I think you're good now.
Here we go.
No, you shouldn't, because you have to get a
Actually, no. Okay.
Park brake on. I wonder if this is probably just the unrealistic setting coming.
Yeah, so something mentioned over here, this is a pre-release beta version of the aircraft, and just prior to the start of filming this, we did discover a little issue with that, which is now under investigation already, so let's turn that off here for a second, and here we go, park and brake is on. So, just something that's gonna be fixed soon, but definitely not a showstopper, so we decided to go ahead here anyway. Alright, cool. So, park and brake is verified on, wheel chocks are removed, FBO payment verified and received, thank you. Static wicks are removed from the wing, and the cabin door is closed, cabin curtain is open, so that's your curtain
Also,
right over here.
Remember to turn off the auxiliary hydraulic pump again. It's only meant to run a maximum of 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you so much. Might have already exceeded those, but, you know, if it's meant to run at a certain time, it always lasts a little longer. Okay, so the cabin curtain is open, cabin divider is latched open, crew seat pedals, seat belts, seat harness and belts adjusted and fastened. So, seat belts and passenger safety buttons on. Right up here, EIS and CAS. So, bus tie closed is intentional. Fuel boost pump on right. That's because of the APU, I assume.
Yes.
And then we have both engines shut down, so that is checked. Okay, fuel quantity, balance and reserves. We're at 3,660 pounds. You can see the APU has used quite a bit of fuel. And it's using that from the right-hand tank, as we can see. Which also confirms the fuel boost pump on right message down there. Okay, so departure route and crew briefing are performed. We'll just assume that for now, and passenger briefing is complete, and that's the before engine start checklist complete. Alright, so anything from your point before we start the engines?
Nope, you're good to go.
Fantastic, then I'm just gonna set the Squawk 2000 because we will be flying IFR. Alright, so APU bleeder button off. Off. Then max cool button off. Down there, and that's off. Then throttle's idle, engine run switch run, and then that's at greater 9% N2. Alright. So, we'll start, I guess it's left engine first in this one, or does it not?
You can start with any because it's an electric starter, so it doesn't really matter. That's also why you turned off the bleed air.
Alright.
I think usually we go with the left one.
Okay.
Real quick before you start, the hit the FADEC resets. It looks like something with the FADEC failed. I guess when we were maybe power cycling the airplane. So there you go. All right, now you should be good.
Fantastic. So let's go ahead and hit that starter. Here we go. Now looking for 9%. Like this. Now, it may be too late already, but shall we quickly bring up the fuel page over here?
Sure.
Just to show you guys what the fuel system's doing in the background during the engine startup here.
Yeah, the engine start takes quite a bit. It sounds beautiful. Boris did a great job, but they're electrically started, so it can take up to 1.5 minutes on a hot day.
Wow. And of course I did pick a day where it's 29 degrees outside. And that's not 29 freedom units, that is Celsius. Alright, so here is engine number 1, almost stable. And here we go. And
Yes.
you can see left-hand generator is taking over. So let's go ahead with the right-hand engine.
Also, you see the left ELEC to EMER line is now disconnected because you use the batteries to start the airplane. And you also see this on the electrical panel, there's a yellow light.
Okay. Right up here. Something that's worth looking at as well is the amperage on the battery. You can see how the engines are really, or how the starters are really draining the batteries there at one point up to minus 300 amps. So that really takes a lot of power to start those engines. Alright, and here we go. That's 2 good engine starts. So, EAS CAS are checked, exterior power is already disconnected, interior button is verified on, and then let's go into the before taxi checklist. So, flight control is free. Again, this is a pretty important test, guys, because of the control lock that's on this airplane. So we got that. Nose wheel steering disconnect check. So tell us, guys, what exactly is done there?
So you would hold the AP disconnect button, because that not only disconnects the autopilot but also the trim, so you can't have a trim runaway. And your nose wheel steering is also disconnected. So if you like use the tiller now or your rudder pedals or whatever, it should not work.
Okay. So we do have that. Then speed brakes check and stowed. So let's get them out over here. We can see the indications up here that they're out and stowed. So flight instruments and avionics checked. So this is all looking good up there. Then flight director modes, top altitude are checked. So autopilot check, verify yaw damper is off after autopilot check. We'll just take that as granted at this point, do we? So takeoff speeds posted. Now, the checklist didn't instruct us to set the flaps, or did I read over that?
It might just not be in there. That might be considered part of like a after start flow. That I'm not sure. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. It is one. The checklist is 1-to-1. I basically kind of copied the actual Garmin file. So essentially, what is in there is what was in the real airplane at that time.
All right. So now we got takeoff speeds posted. That's the safety feature that we talked about earlier. So fuel crossfeed checked as required. Are we actually testing the crossfeed at that point?
Yeah, so the expanded normals kind of have you just check both boost pumps turn on and the crossfeed valve opens, which it does. So you get one transfer, the left boost pump goes on. Well, it's not really transfer, I guess. I'll be pedantic about it. It's crossfeed. There you go. And then you get your CAS messages associated with it. So right boost pump turns on and then close it. Crossfeed closes.
Fantastic. So bleed out system check. Again, over here, expanded procedures would tell you everything, so if you want to look it up, then it's right over here. Normal, before taxi, and it could scroll all the way down, and we are gonna find that stuff. So, basically the packs are powering automatically, are they? So, do we really need to check for anything here?
There's one thing you can check and you'll be able to hear it, is if you basically the knob in the middle that says pressure source, if you flip that to IMER, you'll hear the emergency pressurization valve open, and that basically bypasses all of the packs and whatnot, and just feeds straight bleed air into the engine.
All right.
Pre-cooled bleed air.
So bleed air system is checked, pressurization, landing elevation verified, that's down here, and that is verified. Anti-ice buttons as required, and we are just going to leave them all off in these temperatures, and EIS CAS checked, clear except normal items, and that's before taxi checklist complete. Alright, so that's our basic stuff over here. Now let's go ahead and bring up the charts, provided that we even have any for Saint-Tropez. Wouldn't be surprised if we don't, but this is up to Navigraph now, and indeed it looks like we don't even have charts for Saint-Tropez. That's fine, and we're gonna go with the We're just gonna go with the nav map. And yeah, with that we're already a taxi. So taxi lights coming on, clear on the left side, clear on the right side. Park and brake is coming off. And with that, let's go. Now, just before we do that, let's just use GSX for a second, just to clear out any of those vehicles. Oh, GSX doesn't work. Okay. Alright, guys. Then, close your eyes for a second. Alright. Alright, so brakes are checked. Nose wheel steering is checked. And then we'll check the thrust reversers here.
Approaching 2-4.
Alright, and they deploy, and that's it. Good, so that's basically our taxi checklist completed down here as well. Alright, so before takeoff checklist. Flap selector, verify set for takeoff, and it is. Then speed brakes, DOT, trim stabilizer, 3 centered step set for takeoff. Anti-ice system, I am gonna turn on the pitot-static heat over here, that's it. Alright, speed knob is on FMS, radar is not required, flight director modes, top altitude verified set, crew briefing completed, before takeoff checklist complete. Alright, so let's go ahead and just do the lineup first. And then we'll just take a short moment to talk about the airplane's characteristics before we see all of that in action. So guys, 1 kilometer runway, 1070 meters runway for an airplane that flies over 3,000 miles.
Runway 24. 1,100 meters remaining.
The RAS, by the way, is third party. VRAS by Land 3 Simulation, really recommendable system. Alright, so we do have a baggage heat fail indication down there. Is that something that I've messed up?
No, that might just be a bug on our end with the cast message. I think one of the data modules is not hooked up properly. What you can try and do is below the crossfeed, below the crossfeed, you'll see baggage heat. Just try and cycle that, and then bring it to norm. I don't know if that will clear it. It might clear in the air.
Okay.
It basically just is basically indicating that the shutoff or the heat bleed air valve is open on the ground.
Okay.
Usually it's only open in the air.
Alright. Well then, we do still have the APU on. That thing was not in the procedures. I can shut that down at this point, can I?
Yes.
Alright, so the APU is going off. And yeah, then just to talk about the takeoff procedure over here. So, the airplane accelerates rapidly, and as a business jet, you don't fly a normal noise abatement procedure like you would in an airliner. So basically just pitch up, let it accelerate, retract the gear, retract the flaps at 400 feet, and that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Alright, then, straight out. Cleared all the way to 34,000 feet. Let's run the cleared for takeoff checklists. That's control lock off. Then, flight controls are free, pitot-static buttons on, anti-ice buttons off, exterior lights coming all on. That's it, isn't it?
Oh, you'll also have your strobes. It's going to be to the right of the immer lights, the anti-collision. There you go.
Thanks.
Runway 24.
Okay, fantastic. So we got that. Then the ES and CAS is checked. The one showing message is discussed. And auto throttle as desired, so armed only after runway alignment. We've done that now. Let's go ahead and arm the auto throttle in the takeoff mode down there. And now when we are pushing the thrust levers forward, auto throttle is going to come on automatically and basically do everything for us, is it?
Yep. I think the cutoff is about 80% is when the servos kick in, so.
Fantastic. So let's just go ahead and make sure that we've got an ND available. Like that. And we'll prepare the timer. Alright, are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Take off. Do we need to stabilize the engines anywhere? Or is it just...
I mean, that was pretty stable enough to me.
Absolutely.
Caution, short runway.
And that is absolutely intentional with this airplane. 80 knots. V1 rotate. So there's your 1,000 meters runway. Positive climb, gear up. And here's 400, flaps up. Alright, so let's go on to heading mode and on to level change mode. Now I'm already busting the speed restriction that I've set myself. But here we go, climb thrust is selected. We're nicely up in the climb. Now we're looking at this. We're maintaining speed, 8,000 feet a minute. That's why I love business jets.
She's got some power.
You bet she does. Now I'm not even gonna slow down. I'm gonna slightly disregard that. Because with 8,000 feet a minute, hey, we're out climbing anything already anyway. Oh, is that standard? And standard's cross-check. Passing level 6.5. 1 minute and 30 seconds after setting takeoff power. Alright, fantastic. After takeoff checklist. Landing her up. Flaps up. Yaw damper. I'm gonna turn that one on. Is on. Pressurization. So, is verified and climbing. And exterior lights all off. We'll wait until we're at 10,000. And that's it. Okay, so it... Oh yeah. Well, she's just doing 7,000 feet a minute while I'm accelerating, so let's go autopilot on. And here we go. I'm just gonna maintain that heading, intercept the route, and look at that. That's how I love those aircraft. So all the slides are coming off, and then we've basically got the after takeoff checklist completed over here. Let's get the screen on that controller. Alright, and climb checklist passing 10,000, passenger safety button off. Well, here we go. And I suppose we can turn the seatbelts off anyway. We're at a little high pitch, but it's up to them.
By the way, you can also hide the throttles and the speed brake lever. If you click right beneath the speed brake lever, there's a click button. There you go.
Now that makes operating everything here a little easier. Okay, so all that lovely stuff is basically completed. Now we're already long through the transition altitude, but you can tell that this is an American checklist over here. So let's go ahead and run that one as well. So altimeters are in standard, seatbelts are off, external lights, all pulses off, and the APU bleed button is off as well, and the APU is off. Alright, so that's our transition altitude checklist complete.
One thing about the APU bleed there, why you turn it off, because you would think it doesn't harm anyone, right? Because the engines are powered, like are started with an electric motor anyway. But you turn it off, the bleeder, so the intake is not picking up the air from the engines, so you don't get like a smell of kerosene in the cabin. Because the intake of the APU is like right close to the engines. So that's why you turn off the bleeder during startup.
Well, I would say that means that for most flight simulators, we actually got to keep it on to get that kerosene smell. But for your typical passenger, I'm fully with you. Alright, so we're climbing, but this airplane is pretty loud now, isn't it? So, can we just get that a little bit more quiet? Is there any trick there?
Yes, you pointed it out before, there's the active noise cancelling. So you have basically two ways of toggling that. First of all, yeah, with the you just went over there with the mouse, that audio panel, you can click on it and it will engage. And also there are two different modes. So you first of all have you can see that in the EFB if you quickly go to the settings, and then audio. So right now we have the when seated on. What this does is just enable or disable it automatically depending on whether you're in the cockpit or in the cabin. Because in real life also you would have like a cord that's connected to the headphone jack. So if you went back into the cabin, the cord wouldn't be long enough, and yeah, it would disable the active noise cancellation.
And you guys simulate that?
Well, yeah.
Of course you guys simulate that. Why am I even asking?
Yeah, you would also see on the passenger displays, now that you just reminded me, the destination and departure airport on the home screen and the timeline.
Mm-hmm. That's quite lovely. That is really quite lovely. I mean, guys, I think you are the first ones to ever do this, are you? I don't recall any other add-on having an IFE to this level of detail.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. You can also control the lights, as we talked before, the shades.
Oh yeah, the shades. Let's go ahead and show that up. So, here's your windows, and
so you control the 3 closest to you, and in that case, the most left one is also hooked up to the one behind the crew seat. So those 2 are like, they still have individual motors and circuits, like on the back end of the system, but you control them with this iPad.
wow.
And yeah, you can also open or close all from the GTC in the cockpit. So, you know, when you're coming into land, the pilot can override the window shades. So, yeah.
That's fantastic, and I absolutely see why that might be required. Alright, and here we are, back within the lovely silence of the active noise cancellation. Now, I think I'm going to keep that on for now, because I want to be able to hear you guys. And yeah, here we are, on a constant Mach climb at 0.64, 3,000 feet a minute still, we're 7 minutes in the air, already above flight level 300. That's the power of business jets. Now, what's your recommendation for the inset screen over here, or shall we just turn that one off in flight?
It's up to you, it's your cockpit. It's the beauty of the Garmin avionics. Everybody can have his own. I mean, there are certain things you would want to watch at during certain phases of flight, but usually it's like you can style your office as you want it to be.
Well, guys, as someone coming from an airline that was so SOP controlled that every single one screen would have been absolutely dictated, this is of course the answer that I do not want to hear, but they're absolutely right. So we're just gonna put up the traffic over here, and that's it. Now, all the lovely features of the working title G5000 are of course included in here as well. So you have the synthetic vision, you can switch your displays around, you can put your charts up and everything that you may want to do. Now, we've just reached cruising level, we're accelerating at Mach 0.8, and that's about how this airplane cruises. That's the magic of the Citation Sovereign Plus. Beautiful airplane, isn't it? Now, if we're going outside now, are we going to completely kill our ears? Or do you think...
No. It's gonna be alright, because we have... so if you move it up to 100%, the exterior volume, it's gonna be quite loud. So I don't know, I leave it up to you.
Alright guys, turn your YouTube volume down now. Turn your YouTube video volume down now, we gotta try that. We're at 50%, we're going out, and indeed it's not too loud. I would say that it's indeed maybe even a little quieter than it would have been back on the ground. Now, let's turn that up to 100. You clearly hear that, do you? Alright, here we are. Back in the silence of the active noise reduction. Let's just set that somewhere down about 50.
I usually even tune it down even further when I'm flying, so I can have like some scenic views, especially on longer flights, and still have somewhat good hearing after the flight.
Oh yeah, totally get why you're doing that. Alright, let's take a moment over here and just prepare our descent so that we're not going to miss the top of descent. Now, usually when no top of descent is calculated, that means that it's missing some vertical profile information. So let's just check our flight plan over here. And yeah, as you can see, the vertical profile information is not all the way there. So let's just go ahead and say we want PNEG at 5,500. Actually, why is there PNEG twice inside that flight plan? Let's go ahead and remove one of them.
It's because you have a vectors to final, so it's technically like you could think of it as like a discontinuity in Garmin land.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of why you're not even getting a VNAV profile at all, but you have the
Alright,
the altitude constraints in the approach.
Okay.
I don't know if we're overspeeding a little bit. I guess we were just for a second.
Yeah, we've set it right at Mach 0.8, so we're right at the red line.
It'll clack at like 0.802. So I guess it just went over just a tiny bit.
So basically what you're saying is Reduce that to 290.79.
Yeah, I even asked the real pilots because I was, especially when you're cruising down low in maybe like the 10s or 20s, I was like, does the airplane really target the barber pole? And they were like, yes. So they always usually go to like man speed and they'll just put it slightly below MMO or VMO, and then they won't get the overspeed warning.
Okay, so I've changed it to a managed 0.79. Yeah, sorry guys, Airbus talking. And that's what we are going to use. Now, we got 8 minutes to the top of descent, so that's some time to just relax and enjoy the beauty of this aircraft. So while we're sitting here and just have not that much to do right now, what do you guys think is the one thing that we should look at in cruise in this airplane?
If you want to even look for continue with some of the descent planning, we could take a look at the NOTAMs for Lugano.
Well, that sounds good.
And the GTC. So, we go to home and then services, ACARS, and then DAS. Then we'll just type in Lugano.
So that's Lima Zulu Sierra. Lima Sierra Zulu Alpha.
And then press text NOTAMs on the right. It's a tab on the other side. There you go. So this pulls it from basically your SimBrief flight plan. You can check, ignore, follow any of these NOTAMs. I think it was a cool feature because I feel like most avionics suites don't actually implement this feature at all, and this was something I kind of wanted to do.
Yeah,
since we had the data from SimBrief.
And I think it is a first in flight simulation as well. In the real world on the Airbus, you can request NOTAMs and everything, but nobody ever simulated that, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how many people actually use that. I feel like, even most pilots in real life, if they have like ForeFlight or something, they'll use that, but
yeah,
to add this, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are just looking at the flight plan there as well and just getting that type of info from there, but it is something. Now, you said that ATIS requests work as well, do they?
Yeah, so depending on the network, for example, we can put in, maybe, I don't know if there's a VATSIM.
There is. I just checked it.
Oh, you just checked? Alright, perfect. So that's the real ATIS, so you would probably press no. And then what it should do, if all goes well, you get a nice ding-dong.
And there we are. So that's the VATSIM ATIS right now for Oberpfaffenhofen. God, I'm pronouncing that English. Oberpfaffenhofen. Welcome to Germany. And yeah, that's how you can request your ATIS. Now, you just said that you can request real-life ATISs as well. How do we do that?
Yeah, so we use data from the FAA, so this will just be limited to basically the United States only. But for example, Teterboro, which I'm sure will be very popular for the Sovereign, has a real-world DATIS, so we can go ahead and request that.
So the request is on the way. As always, does take a little time. Get comfortable with it, guys. That's how real-life data link works.
I probably should have shown up by now. Oh, there you go. All right, so yeah, it did take a little bit longer. Usually, I've been pretty used to it coming a lot faster, but it was nice that kind of changes.
Yeah.
So information Juliet.
And here we are, guys.
They always love to have their at the end of the ATIS, like verify you have your SID or your squawk in ATIS.
And I think this is a first in flight simulation as well, at least in MFSF's world, is it? The ability to request real-life ATISs in there.
Yeah, maybe real life. I know in the Challenger you were able to do that, and the Challenger was pretty nice where it would basically detect if you're on VATSIM or disconnected. So if you were not on VATSIM, it would do the real ATIS. Here we just give you the option regardless, because sometimes I like to be on VATSIM, and if the station is offline, I can just go look at the real ATIS and get my information that way.
That's lovely. Alright, 4 minutes to a top of descent. I think we should start a little bit of a setup because, of course, we are not flying to the easiest of all airports with Lugano. So let's go ahead and look at that. We would have had a departure chart. Just took a little while. Let's go ahead and grab the charts from Lugano. and just have a look into what we are going to do today. So we'll start with the Serrano, I think it's the Foxtrot arrival. Nope, that one on the top over there. So Serrano is right over here, and then it's basically leading us down there into the area of the mountains. I gotta be careful what I'm saying here, German first officer. And then more or less directly onto the final for runway 01. Now the weather is good for an arrival on 01, so we are gonna fly the IGS runway 01 approach. And this is what it looks like. Let's zoom in a little bit. So we're starting up here in Pinnick, then we proceed towards Caldo, and from there onto the final. You can see high terrain everywhere, and now, in order to make it a little bit of fun, that's a 6.6 degree glide slope. So I suppose at high speeds you probably have a lot of drag in this airplane. How does it handle at low speeds? Do we need to be careful?
It is pretty draggy. You'll find even in the descents, especially coming from up high, you'll be descending around anywhere from 70 to 80, like 5% N1. So naturally, it's a draggy airplane, but you know, with the speed brakes and the landing gear and flaps, once you're fully configured, should be a walk in the park essentially.
All right. So our plan for the day is that we are going to reach Pinnick in 6,000 up here, and then we are going to make sure that we are reducing our speed accordingly. Let's go down here. Pinnick, they have a 130 knot limit in that one already by default, and we're absolutely going to stick with that so that we're in landing configuration by the time we get down here onto that 6.6 degree glide slope. Now, that is our approach chart, so let's just go down here into the performance, landing data. So landing on Lugano's runway 01, we are going to load that MEDAR data, and looking at the MEDAR itself, it's 1703, so a very slight tailwind, and QNH of 1026, which we can pre-select left side and right side. Okay. Now, that is that. The runway itself, 4,274 feet long. For a Sovereign, that's a pretty long runway, is it?
Yup, you can do much shorter.
Okay, so I'm calculating 1.25% factor over here, guys. We do manual thrust, by the way, and full flaps. And as you can see, we just need 3,090 feet. And that's already the factored 1.25% landing distance here. That's quite good. Let's accept those landing speeds. And with that, we are now loaded over here and pretty much getting ready for our descent. So we got that stuff. The only thing that's left now is the minimum. Now, you think a 9% climb gradient is realistic?
Maybe like 2.5. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
No, I think it'll be just fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Then let's go ahead and go for that. VNAV path is just coming in. Let's go ahead and initialize our descent over here. Say it down to 14, and VNAV is armed, so that we're ready to go. And just before we start our way down, I just quickly want to have a look into the VNAV page as well. Descent. So we're a pilot to find here. But no, let's go onto the
that default.
Yep, let's go onto the default, and all the rest is looking good. So I think with that we got a nice descent setup, and that's pretty much everything we need to do, is it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
I love those easy aircraft. I mean, anyone can do this. It takes a couple of flights to get familiar. Then it takes.
And the beauty is, you know, you can get into it quite quickly, but there's still a lot of things beneath that you will only notice after a few flights.
Absolutely. I mean, when you pulled me back out and told me, hey, you gotta clean that apron, I was like, oh god, what did I do now? And that's exactly the type of stuff that we're talking about over here. It's fantastic. It's really fantastic. Okay, so we're descending, and I'd say there is definitely a checklist for that, is there?
Yep.
Alright, so pressurization, landing altitude, basically 900 feet. Altimeters at transitions are 3 times, exterior lights to come later, so we're going to keep the checklist at that. I take it that you would probably just action it at 18,000 in the States, would you? So basically at 10,000 in the rest of the world.
Yeah, so honestly, we might even look into just renaming the checklist to be just transition altitude. So it's basically a universal checklist, not just fixed to 18,000.
Yeah, that'd probably be good for flying outside the States. Alright, so with that, we're nicely on our way down. Let's just take a moment here to enjoy the beauty of the Skyward simulations. Cessna 680 Sovereign Plus. So, the sun is already coming up over there. It's a fantastic airplane, isn't it? Just looks really, really great. What made you guys choose the Sovereign Plus?
So that's on me. I started the project a long time ago. As a matter of fact, it was the first project I ever started for flight simulation. And then I quickly realized that it's a bit more, like if you want to do it properly, it's actually not only a bit, but way more complicated than I thought it to be. So I had to hold back, and I worked on some other projects, including Diamond, which you also showcased on your channel, I think like 2 years ago, and the Horizon Simulations 787. I was working on that one as well. And then I got back to the Sovereign. I really loved that airplane for the past few years. I am incredibly happy to be able to fly it in the simulator now, because you know, you've talked about it. The range is amazing, and then you compare like, okay, it's not matching your Global or Falcon or whatever, but you look at what runways this plane can fly, and you're looking at the performance that is. You know, you have twice the range of other business jets like Citation XLS or Phenom, and at the same time you can fly into small airports and at greater speeds. That's to mention. So it's a. I don't think many people have heard about the Sovereign, like compared to many other planes. It was never that popular, but I believe it is a really cool airplane.
It absolutely is. And as you mentioned, it's so versatile. I mean, it's got that super sleek design. Like, just have a look at the wing over here. Also have a look at the lovely reflections.
The wing is also really absolutely massive. So if you look from above, you will see how big that wing really is. Like, I don't know, it compared to, and it's very straight. You know, that's what gives you that low speed capabilities. You have a lower approach speed than a Phenom with that airplane. And you know, this is the Plus variant. There used to be the Legacy version, which didn't have those swooplets. And those swooplets, again, they added like 1 meter to the wingspan, half a meter on each side, so you have even better runway performance. You have less wing vortices, so you have less drag and everything. And yeah, well, the biggest difference from the Legacy to the Plus, obviously, is the Garmin G5000 flight deck, and you have a slightly modified version of the engines.
And all of that adds up to be an airplane that is really a huge amount of fun to fly, that is really well modeled, looks good, sounds fantastic. I mean, it's Boris, so what else? And that can bring you across the Atlantic.
Yes, I mean, you will have to make, you know, it's always, it's still around those 3,500 nautical miles, so I think most transatlantic trips end up with a stop in Canada or in Shannon, but it will get you across the pond.
Hey, I'm telling the guys that you can fly across the Atlantic and that is the sail point of your aircraft. You're telling them, yeah, but you need to stop.
I've done it. Hey, I've done it during across the pond, so yes, I mean, it can't be done.
Yeah.
You might not get there very fast, but it'll be able to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
You're looking more at like A320, 737 speeds. Like, you know, a 777 can do, or 747 can do more than Mach 8. But I think with a 320, you're looking at the similar speeds. But you obviously save time on Like as a passenger, for instance, you would save a huge amount of time on boarding and everything, given it's a private jet. And also it can really bring you much closer to your destination. So yeah, because you don't need the same runways as the airliners do.
Absolutely, and just to put that into perspective, when we are doing our 10-hour flights here on our A330, we're usually flying either Mach 80 or Mach 81. If you speed up to the next higher Mach number, it saves you about 10 minutes. The next higher Mach number saves an additional 5 minutes usually. So, even though we're just cruising at 0.79, well, long-range cruise probably a little bit less than that, but even though we're just cruising at 0.79, we're only taking like 20 minutes longer than your favorite Airbus would. And contrary to that, we have an airplane that flies exactly at the time that you want to fly. You don't have to queue up for security because you're literally just walking through it at the VIP terminal. And as Lucas just said, it gets you to the airfield that you want to go, not to JFK where you hop onto a commuter that gets you where you want to go. Alright, so we are slowly but steadily getting here, and I'd say right now is the time. If there is anything more that we absolutely need to talk about, now is the chance, because in 5 minutes we'll be in a super exciting approach.
I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful.
I will give you a warning, since we are going into a short trip. The thrust reversers do not actuate when the mains touch down. Basically all 3 landing gear squat switches have to be on the ground, so that includes the nose wheel. So you could basically kind of maybe prioritize getting the nose down a little bit faster, and then you'll be able to get your thrust reversers deployed. But honestly, I think even without it, if you get the speed brakes out, put some brake pressure onto the airplane, and then it'll turn the 4,000 foot runway into like a 10,000 foot runway with how fast it stops.
Now that's some really good piece of advice there, because most of us passenger pilots are just used to holding the nose off and then just really smoothly settling it down, especially on a wide body. You can nail the mains, then you let go of the stick, the nose wheel falls down, and everyone in the class where it matters is gonna ask what kind of an idiot you are. So that's some very good piece of advice for us over here. Now,
for the landing performance as well, I want to mention, I've flown the plane a couple of times in the simulator, so I thought, well, okay, I mean, I know the plane has great landing performance, but it seemed like much too good for me. So I asked the pilots, is it normal that you go like 50% brakes and you're already down at 60 knots by the time the reversers are actually deployed? And they said, well, yeah, it brakes quite quickly.
all right.
Yeah, the slow VREF, I mean, you already, I forgot what we're doing on the way in here, but if you're light enough, you'll see as low as I think 92 knots.
Yeah, it's 98 for us.
So yeah, 98. We'll probably fly, I think maybe like 101 with the auto throttle, or just 98 without it, and then yeah, we're already slow as is. So.
And that's all thanks to that big old wing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I also see you have the suggestion in there. You don't even have to type it.
All right, that was too easy. That was much too easy. All right, so let's grab that airport chart. Let's pin that airport chart, and you've just basically said that landing on runway 01, we're gonna make November, huh?
Oh yeah, I think we could do it. If we get it down, fast enough.
So
yeah,
now you're basically
November,
saying, with my skills, I'm gonna float it in all the way. So
I hope not.
Well,
I don't know if we have 1,000 footers to go off here, but if you wanna put on the threshold or the numbers, go ahead. Let's see if we can make November. Was it just November?
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if we can do that.
All right.
No pressure.
It's tempting. It's tempting. On the other hand side, you guys just said the plane floats and floats and floats, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you come in just even slightly fast, that big wing will make you float.
Okay, so there's the challenge, guys. An airplane that I'm flying, landing for like the 4th, 5th time right now. And now we gotta put her on the numbers and make an exit. Alright, challenge accepted. Cool, so we're descending down to 6,000.
Smoking.
Don't tell me that's simulated.
No, I
You
think
won't
you're
see
good.
it, but the brake temperature.
But you get. Yeah, the brake temperatures, I think they're in there, but I'm not sure if the sim handles like failed brakes.
Okay. Alright then.
But now
so,
I kind of have an idea for the future.
let's set the QNH over here. That's 1026. And that's cross-check passing 9,400 now. So now we can do the descent checklist. That's pressurization, landing altitude 900, altimeters, QNH 1026, and exterior lights are on. And that's the descent checklist complete. So the approach checklist is pretty massive, so I guess we are just going to switch over to heading over here, and then we'll start reducing our speed. Let's go down towards 220-ish. Then I suppose we can activate vectors to final. I'll tell you what, let's keep descending.
Looks like you're pretty much already on the vectors to final approach. It just sequenced automatically. There you go.
Oh, that's even easier. Okay, fantastic. So, we'll get it down. We're not receiving the ILS just yet, but that's gonna come. It's auto-tuned anyway, so that's nothing for us to worry about. And just looking down here, yeah, 10.5 and yeah, 1089. Okay. Well, in that case. So that's working title stuff now, is it?
Yeah, potentially. And there's also an issue where sceneries may not have the right ILS defined, so you may not end up getting an ILS at all. I think some sceneries have this issue.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. For some reason, MSFS allows scenery developers to define the ILS.
Okay.
It can be a good or bad thing.
Well, then let's
But it looks like
switch it over manually.
looks like it's good.
We're receiving India Lima uniform, and that is India Lima uniform indeed. Okay then, we'll take it down to 5,000, and then it's going to be time to start to decelerate here. And for now, let's already localizer mode. I'll tell you what, we are close enough, we can arm the approach mode as well. Here it is. So approach checklist, landing data is confirmed, minimum is set, anti-ice buttons off, flight instruments, avionics are checked and set, crew approach briefing complete, fuel craft feed off, exterior lights on, passengers are briefed, curtain is open, crew seats adjusted, seatbelts on. Okay, APU in-flight start is not needed today, is it?
Terrain.
Oh, we overshot the ILS a bit.
Yeah.
That's alright. I don't know if you may want to do this, but you could also inhibit the terrain in TALS.
Yeah, well.
I'm not sure if
Let's get
it's
her
going
down
to trigger
first.
on the approach.
Yeah, let's slow it down. And then here we go. Glide slope has captured. And the go-around altitude is 6,000.
Terrain.
And that's set.
Terrain.
Alright, flaps 2. And what's our flaps full speed? Can we already go full?
Terrain.
175. Yeah, we can. Okay, how do I disable that?
It's going to be in TALS on the GTC, top right.
Don't forget
And
the
you
gear,
can
by
do-
the way.
Oh yeah, that's a point. Get down. Thank you.
There you
Alright, cool.
go. Alright.
So you got that
Now
approach
we can land in
checklist.
peace.
We are not going to start the APU just yet. And before landing checklist, so that's landing gear down 3 green. Flaps full, speed brakes retracted at 500 feet. I'm just going to help her slow down. And here we go. So speed brakes are coming in, airspeed is going down, and we'll disconnect in a few moments. Alright.
So if you want to make November, I would go further down than 120. You have
Yeah.
it managed right now.
That sounds like a good plan. Oh, and I just accidentally hit the go around button. Okay. Flight director's off. Okay, so that's the runway straight ahead, and you can see that 6-degree glide slope. I mean, that is massive, isn't it? Just looks like we're coming in so high. Okay, let's just go below the glide and onto the puppy so that we can actually touch on the numbers. Continue. So the rate of...
And also the speed brakes are not automatic, unlike some
Alright.
other airplanes like the Longitude and Phenom.
Oh, come on, we're not too high. I'm gonna disable RAS right now. It's probably not configured for this particular airport. Okay. And now we're getting onto the puppy, 3-degree profile. We'll get the speed right down to VREF. So, are we doing a Joe Moza approach here? Idle all the way to touchdown?
I guess, yeah, it was... Might need to give it a little bit of power right over the numbers, but...
Yeah.
It looks like it'll do just fine.
Yeah, we are doing a Joe Moza approach. Alright, it's floaty.
Well, there's November, can we do it?
Nah.
We'll just turn around real quick.
Yeah. We'll just do a 180 here. Well,
That
not
was
like...
not far. Maybe it was like, what, 200 feet past it? Not bad.
Yeah, no more than that. So yeah, November was like halfway down the runway. So we literally just took, like what, 700 meters-ish?
Yeah.
Alright, we do have an ACAS message. I wonder where that might have come from. Alright, let's vacate the runway real quick, and then we'll see what our ops controllers have to say about us.
That landing, or that approach just gave me PTSD from all the power off 180s I had to do for the past year. My commercial rating. I'm so glad I don't have to do those anymore.
Oh yeah, you bet.
Next project, buddy. Next project.
So just stop her over here for a second, and then let's just see what that ACAS message is. So you can see the ACAS button flashing down here. Also a first in flight simulation as far as I'm aware, an ACAS within a Garmin avionics suite. Alright, so let's go ahead and actually have a look. So around the services, ACAS, and messages. 9 Hotel Sierra November Bravo. When I catch you, we gotta exchange some words.
But the briefing table is about to see some actions today.
Alright, and we're gonna send that one. Alright, my friend, we'll be talking. Okay, after landing checkpoint. Thrust reversers are stowed. Speed brakes. Stowed. Flaps. Up. Pedostatic. Off. Then lights. Nope. That way around. We don't need the pulse lights any longer. Set an APU as desired. We're gonna start it. Nope. I hit the button too quickly. Just meant to put it... I was just about to say I learned something on this video, and then I scrolled too quickly. Alright, here we go. So let's go ahead and start that APU, and here we are.
Also, one feature I really like, you don't see it on... I don't think there are many business jets in the sim right now that can do it, but you can open the windows.
We can open the windows.
Yes.
Yeah, you can yell at 9 Hotel.
You have another handle at the top?
Oh, that's it.
There you go. You can go do whatever you need to do to get 9 Hotel's attention.
I like your suggestion. I do like your suggestion. We're gonna find that guy. Alright, and it is slowly getting dark, so let's just start turning some of those lights on over here. And then here we are. Alright, we're just gonna pick one of those stands on the left hand side here. With that wingspan, we should probably not have picked one of the dashed lines, but well, I can live with that.
Whatever.
Exactly. That's down to me.
It's gonna be happy.
Oh yeah. Okay, parking brake set. Then let's go ahead and go for the shut and checklist. That's throttles, idle, parking brake set, engine, run stop buttons. Wait 2 minutes from idle to touchdown. We had that, so there's number 2, and there's number 1. And we'll switch the APU bleed air on at this point already, because it's still rather warm out here. And then seatbelts and track safety buttons are coming off. And if it's a quick turn, that's already the end of the checklist. So, I'd say we are going to shut it down all the way, because we gotta find that 9 hotel at the briefing table. So, that's gonna be emergency light switch off. That's off. Standby power switch off. Off. And control lock on. On. Then wheel chocks verify before parking brake release. Now here's a question for you guys. Can we keep the parking brake set? For how long is it gonna last?
That's actually a good question. I haven't asked any of my pilots that, or really thought about it. But there's no accumulator. I mean, it might bleed off. If I had to guess, it might bleed off after a while, but I'm not sure if it's something they do. Maybe
If the truck's in the
it's
middle
only
of it.
for if it's only for like a short few hours or maybe a few days, but that is something I can probably go and ask.
Then we're gonna go down the safe way and better put those chocks in place. So, parking brake is released. Then we have the laboratory service and freshwater tanks are serviced as they are. Trip stats and hops take pictures. I love it. That's where you can see that this is absolutely a real life checklist we got over here. Alright then, APU off.
You have the trip stats page, by the way, implemented in the Garmin.
Oh.
Go to utilities.
So that is utilities and trip
and then
stats.
Trip stats.
Alright. We gotta take those pictures, my friends. Flight time, departure time, arrival time. Wow.
Yeah, you also scroll down and you'll be able to see like your fuel used, wind speed, ground speed.
Oh, that's
all
quite
that.
fantastic. Now, if you're wondering, my hour meter is almost at 0 because I just got a new press release copy prior to the beta copy that I had, so that's when I kind of deleted everything, reset everything. But yeah, this is pretty much it. So let's go ahead. We've got that APU. Okay, let's return the controller on the left side. We got that. And then batteries off. So the APU is definitely off. And here
We'll
we
also
go.
turn off the interior button.
System failure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And here we go. Alright, and that's it. The Skyward simulation, Cessna Sovereign, Citation Sovereign Plus. Alright, let's go out and enjoy a beautiful dinner over here in Switzerland. And just have a look at that wonderful airplane over here. She's really looking great, isn't she?
I guess the
see
puddle
a
came
bug.
with you.
I have to. It haunted you. I have to fix that. That's not good.
Alright, well, come on. So that click spot's at the bottom over there, and here we go. Well, guys, and that's it. So, welcome to Lugano. I hope you've all enjoyed the flight. Thank you also so much to the lovely folks from Skyward Simulation over here, John and Lucas, for being on me on this video. Now, hopefully not too long until the plane is gonna come out. And with that, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for being on here. And if you loved today's video, then do check out the Skyward Simulation Cessna Citation Sovereign Plus soon on Marketplace. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much, guys. And I'm really looking forward to see you all again on the next one.